So cool. Hold on, I'm starting it now. I think it's, yeah, it started. You
Yeah,
guys seen that, right?
yeah, it says started. Recording and transcription have started.
We carry on. That was so profound. Thank you.
So it's also like when we're doing something in life, when we're starting a business, or creating a course, or we want to be a speaker, whatever the case may be, we kind of approach it as if I've got to help other people. I've got to be a Mother Teresa, a Nelson Mandela. I've got to be this, give 100% of myself. And it's not that it shouldn't be like that, because it's completely out of balance. Everything that you do has to be a balance. The only way that you can fill up somebody else's tank with motivation, with value, is if yours is full. You can't run empty and expect to fill other people up, because then you're out of fair exchange. And John DeMartini, I love DeMartini. He's my favorite teacher, and I've had the privilege to spend lots of time with him. And what I love the most is that you never put yourself in a state of unfair exchange, because you're just devaluing yourself. And when you devalue yourself, the world will follow after, they'll follow suit. And and then we look back, and then we do stuff for people, or we help the markets, and then we do it for free because we want to help as many people as possible. And then a year goes down, and then you're not in the financial position that what you wanted to be. You didn't grow the company that you envisioned, and you look back and go, I wasted my time. Or these people don't appreciate what I'm doing. And it's part and parcel of the entire journey that you're on. Like when we offer programs to people, and when I offer coaching and mentoring and so on, and if somebody says no, they don't need it, I don't argue with them. I don't try and oversell it or pitch it again, because they'll come back. They're not ready for that change anyways. And one of the things that when I started as a coach, was I created products um that were affordable for as many people as possible. And when I launched my first program, I sat with an incredibly big group of people, and I was a youngster. I was not even in the industry for a year. I launched my first program. I sold off stage, and the first time I ever sold on stage, I broke $30,000 worth of sales on my first attempt. And that also messed me up a bit, because the second time I sold, I made like $1,000. The third time I sold, I made like 1,500. And it kept going, and I couldn't live up to my first time on stage. And everyone started giving me a shot, because Saj was so good on his first. Can you imagine how great he's going to be as a salesperson? And after that, I went through a real drought where I couldn't sell anything. I couldn't really convince anybody to buy or see the value in anything that I was doing. But I started with this big group, and it taught me a big lesson. It's that it's not about the number of students you have, it's about the number of students that leave you after you teach them and get a result. If you have 100 students, yeah, you can be a hotshot, but none of them get results. How good are you as a coach? You can have 10 students, 5 students, even 2 students. You get them the result. You're a good coach. You're playing to your strength. You're not playing to your ego. Because if you're a coach, if you're a speaker, you have to have millions of followers. You have to have your blue tick on Instagram. You have to have all these people falling over and praising you. But that adds nothing. It's you're allowing people to put you on a pedestal. And what happens when you put somebody on a pedestal? You minimize yourself. And if somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, you're great, this is fantastic," and so on, I say, "Thank you, I appreciate so much," and so are you. Okay, because so are you. You're not any different from who I am. And the reason why I say so are you is because I don't want you to feel that I'm on a pedestal, or I'm on your pedestal, and you're minimizing yourself. Because if you minimize yourself and you approach and you come to work with me, and I'm on a pedestal, you don't have the right mindset to get the result that I want you to get in the first place. It's actually beneficial for me, not for you not to put me on a pedestal, or for any student to not to put me on a pedestal, because it stops me from actually getting the result that that I want to get. So, long story short, is that if you had a choice and you went into an operation and there were two doctors, and one doctor was just finishing a 30-hour shift, and the other one came to the hospital fully rested and had the day off, which surgeon would you want? You'd obviously take the surgeon who was rested and didn't just not coming up a 30-hour shift. Why? Because he's depleted and he's going to hurt you, or he has a chance of hurting you. I'm not saying that surgeons can't operate after 30 hours on a shift, but your chances are higher that something could go wrong. Yet we operate on people, we operate in a business without ever taking a break, without going and resting, because we believe that in order for us to get the rest, we need to have achieved a certain level of success. We need to, in order for me to have a holiday, I need to go to a beach island, and I need to a five-star resort, and I need to do that. No, the only way that you get to those levels is by taking breaks. I look back when I first started as a speaker, and my wife and I went for, she wasn't my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, and we went to this wedding in Natal, in Durban, and obviously where else are Indians going to go to weddings? It has to be in Natal, and we could only a hotel that we could afford was the what's it the Regal Inn in Belito, and it was like what $450 a night. Okay, that's what we could afford at that point. Okay, and what I love about it is that when you're in that situation and you're only living up to what you can afford, you never make a campsite there. You actually what I did was I say I'm grateful because things could be a lot worse, but I understand that it could be a lot better as well. Okay. And if we look today where we stay, I don't stay in any places that's less than 5 stars. Staying in hotels that cost, $5,000, 5,000 rand a night. And it's not because I'm wasteful with money or any of that stuff. It's just I work really hard, and it's the downtime that I take has got to be in relation to the work that I put in. And if I don't take care of myself, no one's going to take care of myself. If I don't value my time, no one's going to value my time. It all starts with you. If you look at the market and say people aren't buying into my product, no, it's not that they're not buying into your product. It's that you're not buying into your own product, because at the back of your mind, you don't know whether it's going to bring a result or not. And if you don't know, if there's a 1% doubt, people will smell it. It's a scent that comes out. So you've got to be 100%, but it doesn't mean that you must fall into the trap of perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. So you can't delay yourself from launching. You can't delay yourself from growing, and use the reason that I'm a perfectionist. Okay, there's no such thing as a perfectionist. Okay, you know what a perfectionist is a person that's too afraid of other people seeing the holes in the thing that they do. It's because, if you walk out into a sports arena, okay, and you've got two choices. You're in the dressing room, and you can go down into the field and you could play the game. But if you stay in the dressing room, let's look at that scenario. So you got two choices. You stay in the dressing room, you don't lose. You didn't lose the game because you didn't play. But you don't win the game because you didn't play. By going down to the arena, stepping onto that field, you might lose. And, or most importantly, you might win. And that's what like separates, Australia just won the T20 World Cup the other day, and they didn't have the best team. They honestly did not have the best team. They don't. They when it comes to when it came to that 4-34 match at the Wanderers, South Africa did not have as good a team as Australia. The only difference was mindset. Lewis Hamilton started from the back of the grid And no driver starting outside of eighth position has ever won the Brazilian Grand Prix. He started from the back of the grid and he won it. And it's not that he has the best car, whatever. His teammate is a highly competent driver who it can't keep up with that speed because it's mindset. It's believing that you're going to get the win even before you step on the field. It's not. It's like most people will set a New Year's resolution and they wait for New Year's. They wait for New Year's Eve. Okay. That's almost like I'm going to take you to the stadium. You're going to get off the bus. You're going to step into the ring and then you're going to formulate a plan. It's too late. And when it doesn't work out, you say, "Ah, that's life." Frank Sinatra had that song, That's Life. That's what all the people say. You're flying high in April, you shot down in May. Okay. It's yo yo. Most people are yo yoing through life. Is it difficult or is it hard to stop yoing and being constant? It's very difficult. And it takes work every single day. You know, um, I've got this flip chart behind me. Like I've got to, my to-do list is on my flip chart. And if I don't physically go and take everything off, I don't sleep. It troubles me, and it's like I come back and I take it off, and then if I don't do it, and I'm also honest with myself, if I overextended myself, I'll be the first one to say, hey, I'm overextending myself. I learned a lesson here. I shouldn't do that. And yeah, it coming a long story short, it comes back to like you can't fill anybody else's cup if yours is running empty.
Sure, that was great. Thanks, Sajen. I need to know what your story is. Though. Like, how did you start Hero University? Where did it all come from? How did you go about the journey? Um, Tell me some of the lessons you've learned.
So I don't want to spoil for the people who are going to come on stage, come to the event tomorrow, but I'll give you a bit of an overview. So, um, I was a very sweet child. I was a very sweet child. And the problem with that is that people take advantage of very sweet children. Okay. And that kind of put me into a tailspin. And for those of you who know my story, something terrible happened to me when I was a child. And it gave me the belief that that doesn't happen to good children. It only happens to bad children. And therefore, I am a bad child. And then as I became a teenager, I went from being a bad child in my mind to being a bad teenager. And the why I was bad was that because I only attracted bad things into my life. Failing in school, oh, you deserve it. If first girlfriend cheats on you with your best friend, you deserve it. These are all the things that I believe that I didn't deserve any better than the bad scenarios. And bad teenager became bad adult. And I as I went through life, I would start something, get a bit of success, and then it'd fail. It'll come crashing down. And it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I wanted that. I set it up for that. Things can go so good in my life, and I would mess it up because that was my story. Is that things always go good for a little while and then it goes bad because that was what I deserved. And the same happened with this company that I started, and it became very successful. I was really broke at the time. I was probably earning like 1,500 rand a month, hustling, doing odd jobs, working as an electrical engineer, and I wasn't even qualified, saving butcheries on electricity and so on. Um, and I was kept on plodding away. And this company that I built, that was supposed to be my Apple. I'm a big Steve Jobs fan. Steve Jobs is my hero. People say that he was an a-hole and he spoke down to people and he berated people. I don't know. I've never met him. He's never spoken to me that way. He's passed away now. But I also know that people say the same thing about me. I'm sure they say the same thing about you. Everyone's got an opinion about somebody who might be the best person in the world, but people find their flaws and and put it out there. The thing is that Like with Steve Jobs, he just wanted people to be better. That's all. Wanted them to be the best version of themselves. And to be the best version of yourself, you've got to have standards. And he requires that standards. Tony Robbins does the same thing. But Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker. And when he says it, it's Tony, you know. And as Paul O'Mahony says, because he puts it on different things. They got to follow your passion. But if Steve Jobs says it in a different way, it's still the same thing. Okay. But that was supposed to be my apple. And when I was kicked out of the company, it kind of fulfilled that prophecy again. And it kind of went like that was my Steve Jobs moment. And what was I going to do and so on. And I was devastated. I was 29 years old. I just turned 30. The day after my 30th birthday, I had a net worth of 7 million rand, and it all got taken away from me. And whose fault was it? It was my own, because I was green in business. I was a junior. I thought that I knew every single thing under the sun. I was arrogant, and it served me. It served me the biggest lesson. And when that happened, um, I was devastated. I was lying on the couch watching House of Cards, in my pajamas, ordering Uber Eats the entire day, and that was my life at that point. Okay, whatever money I had, I was just wasting away. I didn't have any vision. I didn't have any motivation to do anything. And Tanya's one of Tanya's friends said maybe you should go check this guy called Robin Banks out. And I was like, who the hell is Robin Banks? And I was like, oh, is it Tony Robbins? I can't be Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is not from South Africa. And I was like, well, who is this guy? I was like, is he a phony Robbins? Um, and it was a Saturday morning. It was still load shedding. In actual fact, that shows you how long load shedding is going to be, because load shedding is like 13 years old. Okay, most people forget that it's 13 years old. Load shedding, there are kids who are going to high school next year that have never lived in a South Africa without load shedding. That's just how long it's been. So it's not going away. Okay, it's never going away. That is a way of life, and we've got to adapt to it and realize that you go buy that generator, go buy that inverter, because you have to. You can't carry on hoping and having a dream that things are going to go right and Escom is just going to magically um, fix itself. But it was Saturday morning. There was load shedding. The robots were out. It was getting towards winter, and if you live in Johannesburg and it's winter on a Saturday morning, you don't want to get out of bed. And eventually I got out and we went to this event, and I saw Robin Banks for the first time. And when he went on stage and he started speaking to people, I could see the profound impact that he had on other people. And he talked about his life and he talked about this journey, and he talked about the mind and how we condition ourselves. And I realized that at that moment that bad things don't just happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. Okay? You know how good things happen to bad people? 2016, November, Donald Trump was elected president of the United States of America. Don't tell me bad, good things don't happen to bad people. So uh, when I saw that, I realized that I had conditioned myself to believe something. And through working with mind power, doing my affirmations and so on, I started to restructure my mind. Okay, the mind is malleable. It's like it's malleable. Is like it's like plastic. It can change, but the problem is that it's like a spoiled little brat who does not want to do his homework. He wants to play video games. That's the brain. The brain doesn't want to do the homework. The brain doesn't want to clean its room. The brain doesn't want to do anything because the brain is freaking lazy. Okay, the only way that you can get it is to shape it, is to discipline it. Okay, and that's why you are not your mind. You are John Keogh says that you are not your mind. You are in control of your mind. But most people are allowing their mind to control them, and the mind is not the mind is portrays and creates decisions based on past events. It uses what has happened in the past in order to make a decision for the future. It's like a robot. It's like with the chess match between that Russian chess player. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say the name because I'm probably gonna land up saying a name of a dictator, and then that's gonna be a terrible thing. So this Russian player, best chess player in the world, and actually we gotta Google it. I won't be able to sleep. Best Russian chess player of all time. Okay, there we go. Okay, Gary Kasparov. That was it, Gary Kasparov. Okay, so Gary Kasparov played against the machine, the computer, and they played 10 games. Okay, Gary won the first game. The computer won the remaining nine because the computer knew how he played. The computer failed. Okay, it failed, but yet it used what had happened in its failure in order to become invincible. Yet we fail all the time and we try to push our failures under the carpet. We try to not look at it because it apparently failure is a bad thing. Oh, you failed at something. You must suck. Okay. No, you know who says that? People who sit in the stands, not the people on the field. The people on the field know that you have to fail, know that you have to lose. Okay. But like Nelson Mandela says, you can lose, but don't lose the lesson. Okay. Look back and understand how can you improve it? How can you be better? And then that was the day that I had realized that, you know, I want to be a speaker. I want to teach people how what happened to me, and also how they can avoid it. I don't want that to happen to people. I don't want people to be distraught. I don't want people to feel fallen. I don't cry. Okay, guys, I don't cry. My dad and I have got a very turbulent relationship, and my dad was a dictator. Okay, he was a disciplinarian of note, and his thing was that boys don't cry. I grew up with that the whole thing about boys don't cry. My granny died. I loved my granny. I didn't cry. I didn't shed a tear. Okay. One of my best friends committed suicide. Didn't shed a tear. Okay. But I'll tell you the one time I was on my knees and I was sobbing like a baby was when my company got taken away from me. That was the only time in the history of my life I can remember crying. And I know how it feels to have something taken away from you. Okay. But the only way to take it back is to say it wasn't taken away from me. I let it go through my own what I know. Okay, I didn't know enough. I didn't know enough to keep it, and therefore, if you don't know what it takes to keep something, you let it go. Okay, you let it drift away, and somebody else is going to come pick it up, and then you say, "Oh, they stole it from me. They took my idea." No, nobody takes anyone else's idea. There's always somebody who moves to market quicker than somebody else. You can have the best idea in the world. In actual fact, when you have an idea, four other people around the world are having exactly the same idea at that time. Okay. But more often than not, all four of the people never act on it. Okay. And then I decided I wanted to become a speaker. And I thought that I'm going to go on the stage and I'm going to be like Robin and Tony Robbins and so on. And I went out and I started doing videos every single day. I started doing Facebook videos, YouTube videos, and I worked my tail off for like 8 months, and nothing happened. I worked extremely hard, but nothing happened. And I realized that it's not about how hard you work, it's about the direction that the hard work is going towards. Most people work hard. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that people work hard from the moment they open their eyes in the morning. But most people work hard in the wrong direction. Or they're working hard not to fulfill their dreams, they're working hard to fulfill somebody else's dreams. And I failed. I burnt out, and I didn't know what to do. I was literally on my last cent, and uh, a job came up I went actually. Funny enough, I went to an entrepreneur free event. Okay, and the guy who had this free event was a guy named Neil Milan, and I went up to Neil and I said, "Look, I'm going to be CEO of your company one day." That was my claim. And the reason why I did that was because Lewis Hamilton, who is the seven-time Formula One champion, when he was 12 years old, he was receiving a karting award. And that year, I think Mika Hakkinen won the Formula One, and he drove for McLaren. And the guy who ran McLaren was a guy named Ron Dennis. And Lewis Hamilton went up to him and tugged on his suit, and he looked down, and there was this little kid, Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis Hamilton says, "Mr. Dennis, one day I'm going to be a world champion in your car." And fast forward, Lewis Hamilton became a world champion in McLaren car in 2008. He was the youngest world champion for a couple of years until Sebastian Vettel came along. But um, I did it. You got to take your chances. The worst thing is that someone's going to say no. And if somebody says no, how worse off are you? You're not in any different position than you were if you didn't ask. Okay, it's the same thing. Like you don't lose if you don't ask, but you don't win either. And I said that was the thing. I'm going to be CEO of your company. And then he had this job opening for a copywriter. I did not know what a copywriter was. Okay. I thought a copywriter was somebody that looks at writing and copies it. Somebody's going to give me something and I need to copy all the writing in it. That's what I thought a copywriter was, to be completely honest. I applied for the job. I wrote a very convincing cover letter that said, "I will come and work for you for free just to prove to you that no one else you'll ever hire will work harder than me. And I will leave a lasting impact in your company." For 2 years later, I'm the chief technology officer. Never made it to CEO because he was a CEO, but I was a chief technology officer. I was a CTO of the company. And we had incredible success. One of the webinars that we did, the first webinar that we actually did, we broke R1 million in one night. Did R1 million in one night. And we went from success to success, but I always signed up with him because I always wanted to work with him because I wanted to learn the industry. That was it. And he knew I had to leave at some point. And I knew I had to leave at some point. Okay. And when you get to the point, you'll know the things, it's like tension, it's like gears grinding against each other. And I left and I went on to pursue for full time to be a speaker. And in actual fact, I took 8 months off. I took a sabbatical and I was consulting now and then, but it was fine. I was chilling. I wasn't really doing anything. And then I went to a mind power event. Actually, on a Friday afternoon, I phoned Robin Banks's business manager, Yvette, and I said, "Yvette, I'd love to come and introduce Robin." The person who introduces the speakers, like they're on for like 30 seconds. Okay, that's it. It's 30 seconds. I said, "I'd love to introduce Robin." She said, "Okay, cool. Let me speak to Robin and see what he says," and so on. At that time, I was building funnels for Robin, helping the marketing campaigns for Robin. And he said yes. So I went to the event at Bryanston Country Club, and it was awkward because if anybody knows the speaking industry and the business speaking industry, they'll know that if you know Neil Malan, you'll know that his direct competitor is a man named Brian Walsh. They're like arch nemesis, these two. They're really things. So, but Brian's always like, I don't know why people say that he's my enemy. He's not my enemy. I don't see him like that. But people always, it's like you don't want to invite Neil and Brian to the same party. That's the thing. So when I went to introduce Robin, Brian thought that he was going to introduce Robin because he introduced Robin a week, and nobody told Brian that he wasn't going to introduce Robin. And that was the first day that I actually met Brian Walsh. In actual fact, Brian couldn't even look me in the eye because it was like this stranger, like why is this here? Like I'm from the dark side of the force, I'm coming through to this side. And after that, I saw one of his events with Ann Wilson and Robin. I think it was the three of them were doing an event, and I went there, and I had known Ann Wilson because I'd worked did some work with her a few years earlier with Neil, and I went and spoke to her, and Brian came up, and Ann was like, "What are you doing now?" And I'm like, "And I'm taking some time off. I'm actually like taking a sabbatical." Then Ann's like, "Well, we should talk," because at that point when the speaking industry found out that I left Neil, The moment the industry found out I left Neil, I received maybe about 23 phone calls from 23 different speakers asking asking what am I doing? Can I come and work with them? You know, I make this joke about me being the golden child, the special one, the chosen one. And it just that I bring that kind of energy wherever I go. If I'm going to work with somebody, I'm going to make sure that they succeed. And I said, guys, I'm not going to, because I'm just going to end up putting a bandage on a wound that needs stitches. I'm tired. I worked hard. I went to the day of my wedding. We had a seminar at the Hilton Hotel. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I went to the Hilton Hotel at 7 o'clock. I gave a talk at 8 o'clock. I got off stage at 9 o'clock. I drove to my mother's house. I dressed in my suit and got to the church. That was how hard I worked. Okay. And I wanted time off. And Brian said, after Anne said, what are you doing? We must have lunch. Brian's like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I just want to speak. That's what I do. I want to help people. I want to teach. I'm a coach. And he said, well, yeah, maybe we should have lunch. And we ended up having lunch at the Mind Power weekend. It was at the Hilton Hotel. I think it was actually John Keogh's last last speaking on stage. And as we came up with this thing and said, look, he said he's been doing all the stuff himself. And there's nobody that he can talk to. There's nobody that understands this. And he says, look, am I frozen? Am I frozen? Are you frozen? So, and he said, look, let's go and let's try it. Let's work together. I want to build a team. I want to build a marketing team that is going to create events all over the world. And I want you to be a part of it. Okay. So we started working together, and he put me on stage in front of 5,000 people. I I helped him. I built his marketing systems. Today, Brian's like my best friend. Okay, we go overseas together. We go to watch the Formula One together. We were like, we almost went to the Cricket World Cup in in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. If South Africa had beaten England, we were gonna book tickets right after the match. But that's how things started to take shape. And then I sold again on stage, and I sold against somebody that some of you guys might know. I sold against a man named Paul O'Mahony. And I thought I was hot shit when it came to selling. Paul is the best salesperson in the world. And then at that point, I said, I've got to learn from this guy. So I ended up consulting to taking time away from Brian and him. I reduced my hours, and I moved from a full-time role to a consultant. So I'm not an employee. No one employs me. I'm an employee of my own company. I pay my own salary, but my business is a consulting firm because I consult to different companies around the world. And I was working with Brian and I was working with Paul, and because I wanted to learn how to sell. That was it. I wanted to learn everything I could from Paul. And a year later, Paul and I received an award by Clickfunnels because we had made $1 million through a single advertising campaign. It's a big award. It's going to be shipped. I'll probably get it in January. But it's a big golden award, and it says $1 million through one funnel, and it says that Paul Mahoney and Sajen Thathiah. And COVID hit, and we thought, what are we going to do now? And I always maintain that if I have a heartbeat and I have my mouth, I'm fine. I'll make something work. And at that point, we changed the entire structure. We went online. And today, we are the biggest personal development, run the biggest personal development summits in the world. There is no one that our competitor Success Resources own the industry. Everyone said no one can touch Success Resources. Well, COVID hurt a lot of people, but it helped us because we didn't see it as something to hurt us. We saw it as something that levels the playing field. Okay. And we adapted quicker. And uh, I've had the opportunity of working with people like Deepak Chopra, Robin Sharma, what a fantastic guy. I love talking to him. Mel Robbins, Les Brown. I used to listen to Les Brown's recordings and tapes and so on, to motivate me, and watch him on YouTube. Today, Les Brown and I are on first name terms, you know, and it's all because I realized that good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to bad people, and the bad things that happen are there to serve you if you allow it to serve you. Okay, look at every messed up situation in your life and say, how does this serve me? And if you don't come up with an answer, it means that you're not being critical enough with yourself, or you're scared of the answer. And today I've got the Hero University. I help coaching students, and I don't sell products that are that affordable. My minimum coaching product is $5,000. That's it. And I work with a handful of students from all around the world, mainly United States and Europe, and I do less work. In actual fact, don't tell anyone. I don't work on Mondays and Fridays. Most people don't know this about me. I don't do any work on Mondays and Fridays. My weekend is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. My weekdays that I do work is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I work 3 days a week, but I make significantly more money than I did when I was working 7 days a week, because it's not about how hard you work, it's about the direction that you put that hard work into.
So then, how do you, if you're going to go into it, in the right direction in terms of where you work hard, how does a business or a small business um, get to a point where they're not working hard, and the quality is better than the quantity, if I can say it like that?
So the Michael Gerber said this quite eloquently. He said the number one reasons why small businesses don't work is because the person who started it does. Okay. What does it mean? The person who starts it is the worker. They've just created another job. They've created more stress, and they live with this belief that, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself, or you can't find good help today, or I don't trust people to do as good a job as me. Well, that's okay to live in that place, but you're never going to scale. The stuff that I do, I was the stuff that I know when it comes to marketing, Facebook advertising. If people know me, I'm one of the leading Facebook advertisers in the world, and it was difficult for me to teach people, and it was difficult for me to teach them what I know. We brought on a team of really, I won't say remarkable people, but they're just ordinary people. They're passionate people. They're hardworking people. And today, the team that I trained that effectively replaced me, they do stuff better than me. They make less mistakes than me, you know. And when they need advice, when they need someone to consult with, that's when I step in. But I don't micromanage. I don't go and check after everyone's work. I don't, you know why? Because if I have to check after your work, I've created another job now. Now I move from CEO of my company to quality control. I don't want to be called quality controller. What did I do? I'll find somebody who's a good quality controller. Let them do it. It doesn't have to be you. In fact, it shouldn't be you. That's the way that you can grow your company. The truth about being a business owner is that there's lots of benefits. There's financial benefits, there's travel benefits, there's time benefits. But if you don't believe that you deserve any of that stuff, you're never going to get it. And you're just going to work yourself. Instead, it's a funny thing. They say entrepreneurs are people that trade a 9 to 5 job to work 18 hours a day and get paid less. Okay? It's insanity. Okay? It doesn't make sense. And most people just stay there. 95% of the businesses that are started this year, next year, are not going to be here. And out of that 5%, two out of that five are the only ones who are going to make it to a 5-year mark. So out of 100 businesses that are starting today, only 2 of them are going to be around in 5 years from now. It's a shocking stat. If you look at the definition of an entrepreneur, the word in there, does anybody know what word stands out when you look at the definition of an entrepreneur? The word is hope, in the hopes of making a profit. Okay? Hopes and dreams. So, and why is that a fitting definition? Is because that's the way it's illustrated. That we don't They don't look at it and say, well, entrepreneur does this and therefore that's how we define it. No, things are defined on the way that they are. Okay, people don't say when a baby is going to be born, it's like, oh, this baby is going to be Indian. Okay, this baby is being born is going to be Indian. No, the baby, you look at the baby when the baby's born, that's what the baby is. Okay, but we want to give all these things definitions to our businesses and so on and to ourselves, and like, but it's not the way our life illustrates it. And John DeMartini, if you want to start anywhere, the first place you start is with John DeMartini and understand what your values are. I tell people that's where I started. People say, what advice can you give me to be successful? I say, go find out what your values are. If you don't know what your values are, um, um, then you're not going to be living a life congruent to it, and you're going to be living other people's values. If you work 9 to 5, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. An entrepreneur is not any better than somebody who works in a full-time job. But most people who work in a full-time job are very unhappy, and the reason being is because they're working um, in other people's values. They're working in the person who started the business's values, because that person decided, hey, I'm going to not be a worker. I'm going to build a company. I'm going to have a mission and vision. I'm going to work with something that I truly enjoy, and I'm going to get other people to work with me. Okay, not all companies are like that. Okay, most companies are. Some companies want make people believe that they're part of that vision, and they only attract people that are in alignment to the vision, so it doesn't feel like they're being robbed. They feel passionate about the work that they're doing. So um, I don't understand Vivian's question. So does that mean we have to keep reinventing ourselves? You do. You have to reinvent yourself, because what worked yesterday is not necessarily going to work tomorrow. I've come to a crossroads as a Facebook marketer where I decide, hey, either I pack up and I pass the baton on to somebody else and they can do it and they can think, or I can realize that the playing field is level once again because of the changes that Facebook made and the ISO and Apple and all those wonderful things that happen. The playing field is leveled. I have to reinvent myself. I have to become different. I have to become better. I have to become wiser. Reinventing yourself doesn't mean that you have to become a different person. Reinventing yourself means that you just do things in a better way.
I want to open the floor for others to ask a question, because I know I am mindful of the fact that we're running out of time. So if that's okay, you guys want to ask some questions?
I don't know whether people are stunned that they can't find the unmute button.
Very funny.
Don't you think these Zoom calls and online calls are like the modern day seance? When people are with the Ouija board and like, can you hear me? It's like, I was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you see me? All right, cool.
So my question is, when you went through that the phase where you were basically depressed and down and didn't have direction, what made you listen to that one person that said, go to the seminar?
I'll give you um a crazy answer because it sounds crazy. Okay, but I was having supper with John DeMartini, and we were talking about this instance where this one, I think it's North American tribe, have this belief that if you write something on a piece of paper and you burn the paper and you give the ashes to somebody and they rub the ashes together, they would be able to know what is written on the piece of paper without seeing it. Because the way that we believe that knowledge is transferred is we don't actually understand how knowledge is transferred. We're not at that point of understanding it. So with knowledge that is being transferred and knowledge that is existing, what John was talking about was black holes. And it was like, what's on the other side of a black hole? And if the theory was that is that when something happens in the world, in the universe, that information doesn't disappear. It's there. It's energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. Theory is that it passes through the black hole. We don't know what's on the other side of a black hole. When it passes through a black hole, the information then creates on the other side. So we don't know whether or not we are the actual or we are the byproduct of the information. But if you existed on different realms and you existed on different levels of your life, the one thing that is constant is the consciousness. Okay. So right now, your consciousness, okay, let's say right now, my consciousness, I can tap into my consciousness at 70 years old, or I can communicate to my consciousness at 7 years old. All right. It's they're existing at exactly the same time. It's just that the light is being shined on this moment in time because energy can't be destroyed. Okay. If we're all beings of energy, it means that we're looking at it at different levels. So we look at it like this, we see it like this, but in actual fact, it's like this. So it looks like it's one hand, but it's actually two hands behind, one hand behind another hand. And to not get overly complicated, I believe that that instinct that you have to listen to the voice is yourself from the future, who is thinking about a time where there was an opportunity that needed to be taken and it didn't take it. So it's John Keogh talks about this. It's called the Contemporaria. How do you communicate with your present and past self through tapping into the consciousness and through affirmations and so on, and through love? That's the only way you're going to break through to your future and past self is by love. And I believe that if something calls to me, if something says something to me in my gut, I believe that it is me saying that to myself from a different time in my life, either to warn me not to do it or to warn me that I should have done it. So that's the only thing I can think of. There's really no reason why I followed the voice and why I went on that day. There's literally no evidence that proved that I should have gotten up early. I should have put on pants and gone to this event. Nothing in my life illustrated that. So what was it? Tony Robbins calls it grace, a moment of grace. We call it divine intervention. Okay. Some people call it speaking to the spirit. We don't know. We don't know. But we don't need to know what it is in order to do it. We're on the internet right now. We are on a platform called teams.microsoft. Okay? We're communicating. None of us know how to build or how Teams was built. None of us are coders. None of us are experts in this. We use the internet every single day. 99.9% of the people don't know how the internet works. But with stuff like that, we need to know everything. But certain things we don't care. So when you're in that place of like desperation and insecurity and sadness, and you don't see any hope and so on, you have to ask yourself the question, how is this serving me? Because when I was starting off and things went bad and I was living in a friend's spare room, sleeping on a mattress on the floor, and it's winter and I only have this thin blanket and I lie in bed freezing, thinking about the time where I'm going to have this luxury vehicle, drive into a secure estate, get into my house and lie on this warm king size bed and just have everything that I want. And I didn't realize it until a couple years or so ago when I was driving into our estate. I was like, wow, everything that I wanted when I was lying on that mattress, I have. So it's difficult. It's difficult to explain and to put into words, but you'll know. You'll know what it is when that voice reaches out to you. When you say, "Actually, I should do this. Look at this. You going to the event tomorrow? Okay. What's going to happen is that things are going to pop up that are going to get in the way of going to this event. Okay, traffic lights are going to be out because of load shedding. There's an emergency at work. My child is sick. Everything is going to come across as if you shouldn't do this and say, you know what? I'll do it next time. The next time they do it, I'll be there. Okay. And I can tell you one thing, that is why for an event, if we're going to have 200 people in the room, we'll book 400 tickets because we know 50% at minimum are not going to pitch up. Okay. 18% of the people that follow their gut, that say, this could be it, or I need to be there. I don't know why, but I need to be there. And they're there and they get a reward for it. And it starts a domino effect. That's it. It's the voice. Maybe it's the voice telling you shouldn't go there because you're going to go and you're going to go and end up worse off. Or there's a voice that says go because this might be something that you need for us to make our life or make the future that we currently have a reality. Load shedding, running out of data. All right, cool. Hope that answers the question. I'll take one more question and then we can wrap up.
Tershini?
It was me that asked the question.
Oh. I see your faces. I'm sorry about that. Right. Okay, cool. So then,
does it answer the question? I don't know whether I confuse the matter even more.
I think, it's interesting that we do have those aha moments. And I feel that, that was guided into spiritual self-development and transformation. But I feel that I'm kind of stuck, like, what is my next step? And I hear you when you say we don't know what's on the other side of a black hole.
So
I love it already.
Life is linear. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Life is linear. Okay, life is not like this. These are emotions. This is time. Okay, when the day that you're born, you start to die. Every day that after first day you're alive, it's the first day towards dying. Okay, because time it doesn't discriminate against anyone. It's a straight line. Okay, but when we look at life and we look at the moments that we had that were absolute magic, okay, what's the best thing that ever happened in your life?
I got the opportunity to go to England and live there.
Okay, so you went to England. What year was that?
1999.
Okay, so 99. Okay, so you went to England. So that's a magical moment. Okay, magical moment. Before that, at any point, did you feel stuck that your life wasn't moving forward?
No, I was too young.
What's that?
No, I was too young.
Okay, so
when you're young, everything is amazing, and you have the energy and the newness to life.
Okay.
So,
all right, I get your point. So you were going on that direction. Okay, it felt like everything was great. All right. Let's say you did get stuck. Okay, let's say you got stuck over here. Okay, and if you got stuck over here and your magical moment was here, and this set back your progression, then the year 1999 and the moving to England would have taken actual here, because you're stuck, because it slowed down your progression. Okay, but you weren't, and it carried on. But let's say that you have another magic moment coming up, which you probably do, and you aren't stuck, and you're going at a rapid pace. Okay, you'll achieve that point in time will come earlier, and you'll miss this magic moment because you were too fast. You got there too quickly. You got to the point, and the magic wasn't there. But if you needed to slow down and to create that time and to feel stuck, then the time that you would have undercut it, you ended up. Or maybe you didn't undercut it. Maybe you went past it, and that's where you were. Because the magic moments happen. And if we're too fast, we can go past it. If we're too slow, it will go behind it. But we have to trust that where we are and what feels like stuckness is not really stuck. It's where you're meant to be, because if you moved at any other pace, you might miss the magical moment that you're looking for.
Nailed it. Got it.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Sajen. That
No
was
problem.
truly a blessing. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be cool. Tereshini, now I'm confused. Is it Vivian or you that were coming tomorrow?
Vivian's coming tomorrow.
Vivian's coming tomorrow. Okay. All right, cool. Then I'll see. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Cool, man. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.